Hey guys, so I'm back with Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman. We read the first half together yesterday. So you remember the dad had been traveling all over and he was in a balloon with a time-traveling stegosaurus to get the milk back home for his kids because there's no milk in the fridge. I got back into the balloon basket. Professor Steg unhooked the first emerald from his time machine and replaced it with the one that I had just taken from the weathered face of Splod in the future. Do not, whatever else you might do, said the professor, touch those two stones together. Why not? Because according to my calculations, if the same object from two different times touches itself, one or two things will happen. Either the universe will cease to exist, or three remarkable dwarves will dance through the streets with flower pots on their heads. That sounds astonishingly specific, I said. I know, but it is science, and it is much more probable that the universe will end. I thought it would be, I said. You look so sad, Professor Steg told me. I am, it's the milk. My children are breakfastless. The milk, said Professor Steg, of course, and with that Professor Steg pressed the red button with his heavily armored tail. There was a zoom, a twerp, and a thing, and we were hurtling through the cosmic void, and then it was very dark. Very dark. So here's Professor Steg talking about how the world will end if he touches those two emeralds together. Oops, said Professor Steg. Overshot a little. Only by a week, though. Hold on. Professor Steg leaned over the side of the basket. Excuse me, he said. Is there anyone around? Only me, said a very surprised-sounding voice from below us. The priest of Splod. Who's that up in the sky? Is it a bird? You do not sound like a bird. I am not a bird, said Professor Steg. I am a marvelous, yet mysterious and prophetic voice, telling you a mighty prophecy, so mighty that, very mighty indeed. Listen, when a huge and good-looking, spiny-backed individual, monster, I told him. The prophecy said monster. Accompanied by a scrawny human being of revolting appearance, said Professor Steg. So here they are, hanging over Splod. That was not necessary. Lands in a floaty ball person carrier, you must not sacrifice them. You must instead take them to the volcano and give them the Eye of Splod. And this shall be the way that you shall know them. The human being will hold up some milk. Is that the prophecy? Said the voice. Yes. Is there anything about crops in it? I'm afraid not. Oh well, thank you anyway, prophetic and mysterious voices from the air. I pressed the red button. Daylight. We were in the middle of a very familiar volcanic eruption. Quickly, I said, give me the emerald. A little way away I could see a balloon being blown through the sky, while fire and ash were swept around it by the wind. I could see me in the balloon standing next to Professor Steg with my mouth open. I looked miserable. Professor Steg, my Professor Steg, gave me the emerald. So there they are, looking quite happy. And here's the balloon over the volcano. I raced down the rope ladder and placed the emerald back into the face's eye. Then, as the volcano stopped erupting, I looked around for the milk. I knew it had landed on Splod's head when it fell. Fortunately, the milk had fallen into a small drift of volcanic ash and was unharmed. I picked it up, brushed it off, and started back up the balloon ladder. Professor Steg pressed the button. The sky went dark. We were floating above a landscape of ominous towers and disquieting castles. It was not a friendly place. Bats flew across the sky in huge flocks, crowding out the waning moon. I don't like this place, I told the professor. I don't see why not, he said. It looks as if it would be very nice when the sun comes up. There was a loud flute, and where the bats had been fluttering, several pallid people were now standing. The man in front had a very bald head. They all had sharp teeth. Uh-oh, you know what that sounds like, right? Oh, and here's where they are. You can see the towers, the moon. We got some bats up here. We are vampires. I said, what is this? Who are you? Answer us, or we will vivisect you. I am Professor Steg, boomed the Stegosaurus. This is my assistant. We are on an important mission. I'm trying to get back to the present. My assistant is trying to get home to the future for breakfast. At the word breakfast, all the vampires looked very excited. We have not had our breakfast, they told us. We normally have wiggly worms with orange juice on them. Orange juice makes worms even wigglier, like wandering spaghetti. But if we cannot eat worms, we will eat assistant, or even roast professor. Here's the hungry vampires. One of the vampires took out a fork and looked me up and down in a hungry sort of way. The boldest, most bulging eye, rattiest of the vampire said, "What is this box?" "It is my finest invention," began Professor Steg proudly, but I interrupted. "It's to keep sandwiches in." I said. "Sandwiches?" said the vampire. "Sandwiches," I said, with as much certainty as I could muster. "We thought it was a time machine," said the head vampire with a sly, sharp smile. "And we could use it to invade the world." "Definitely sandwiches," I told him. "What happens if I press this button, then?" said a lady vampire. She had long black hair that covered most of her face and peered out at the world with one suspicious eye. She pressed the button. We went forward 6 hours in time. "See," said the professor happily. "All this place needs to brighten it up is a little bit of sunshine." The head vampire said, "What?" and dissolved into a cloud of oily black smoke. So did all his friends. "Yes," I said, "it is a nice place here, after all, in the daylight." The professor tinkered with the jewels and the string and the buttons. Then he said, "I think I've got it properly fine-tuned now. This next press should bring you back to your own time, place, and breakfast." But before the tip of his tail could touch the button, a voice said, "I'll explain later. Fate of the world at stake." A hand grabbed, and the milk, which I had carried safely for so long, was gone. I turned in time to catch a glimpse of a fine-looking gentleman with his back to me, holding my milk, and then the hole in space through which he had reached was closed. My milk! "He said he'd explain later," said the professor. I'd be inclined to believe him. The hole in space opened again. A voice shouted, "Catch!" and the milk came rocketing through. Fortunately, the milk struck me in the stomach, and in clutching my hands to my belly, I caught the milk. "There," said the professor, "everything is back to normal." "He did say he'd explain later," I pointed out, and that wasn't much of an explanation. "But it's not later yet," said Professor Steg. "It's still now. It won't be later until later." He was arranging pebbles and stones and string on the top of the time machine box. "Final coordinates entered," he said, "and then it's off to your house for breakfast." "Does that mean that there is a stegosaurus in a hot air balloon outside?" I asked my dad. And here you can see the portal opens, and the milk comes out, and he's about to catch it. "There is not," he said, "for reasons that will become apparent." "I think there should have been some nice vampires," said my sister wistfully. "Nice, handsome, misunderstood vampires." "There were not," said my father. So there's the father and the daughter, and she's dreaming of a misunderstood vampire with a little stuffed bat and a rose. "Would you like to press the button?" said Professor Steg. I pressed the red button. There was an ear-popping noise and a flicker of years, and I was floating in a balloon basket above the intersection of Marshall Road and Fletcher Lane. I could see our house from above. I could see the bicycles in the back garden. I could see the rabbit hutch. "We're here," I said, and I patted Professor Steg on the back ridge plates. It was very nice having you as a traveling companion. "Ugh!" said the professor, because there was a familiar sort of a thumb noise, and before I had a chance to press the red button, we were deposited, balloon and all, on the enormous metal deck of a flying saucer, with a number of very grumpy-looking, green, globby people staring at us with too many eyes. They did not look pleased. And there they are in their balloon, about to get to his house. "Ha ha!" said several globby people at the same time. "You thought you had escaped us, and you were wrong. Now you must sign the planet over to us so that we can remodel it. We will take out all the trees for a start and put in plastic flamingos." "Why?" "We like plastic flamingos. We think they are the highest and finest art form that Earth has achieved, and they are tidier than trees. Also, we are going to replace the clouds with scented candles." We like scented candles too, explained a huge green globby person who looked like he was mostly made of snot. We also like decorative plates, said another. We will put a big decorative plate up where the moon is now. A really big decorative plate showing landmarks of the world. Okay, so you can see here are all the globby, boogery looking monsters. Yep. And we will then replace all the landmarks of the world with decorative plates with pictures of landmarks on them too. So the Eiffel Tower will be replaced by a large plate with a picture of the Eiffel Tower on it. And Australia will be replaced by a really seriously big plate with Australia on it. Also, we replace all your mountains with throw cushions, said the smallest, globbiest thing of all, with triumph in its glutinous voice. So there's all the mountains being replaced with decorative pillows. You can see the plate with the Eiffel Tower on it. There's flamingos instead of trees. It's what they want to do to the world. Uh-oh. We have learned a lot from our previous meetings, said some globs that were sticking to a wall. If you look over there, you will see that the door to the space-time continuum you used to escape through last time is now securely locked. It was definitely locked. It had a huge padlock on it and a sign saying, "Keep out" on it in unfriendly red letters. There were also chains around it, a tape that said, "Do not cross," and a handwritten notice that said, "For your convenience, please use another door." Escape was impossible. So there's the door with all its signs, and there's a little boogery creature guarding it. Also, we have depowered your time machine. I looked at the professor. His armored back flaps were drooping, and his tail was, well, not actually between his legs because stegosauruses aren't made that way. But if they were, it would have been. We have been tracking your movements through time and space, said a large globby alien in front of a console with a screen on it. Now see what happens when I press this Grundledorfer, said a particularly drippy alien. It was half sticking to the wall next to a large black shiny button. It's called a button, I said. Nonsense. We named it after our brood aunt, Nessie Grundledorfer, said the globby aliens. The particularly drippy alien pressed the black button on the metal wall with something that might have been a finger and might just have been a long strand of snot. There was a crackle. There was a fizz. Standing around us in attitudes of anger and irritation were several pirates. Some of the black-haired people from the jungle, a very unhappy-looking volcano god, a large bowl filled with piranhas, and some vampires. And there's the start of them. There's some pirates. There's some people from the island. Nope. There's Splod and some vampires. There's piranhas in a bowl and more villagers all lined up. They summoned them with a push of a button. I'm not sure that I understand what the piranhas are doing, said my sister. They were from a narrow escape earlier that I forgot to mention, said our father. Fortunately, the milk floated at a crucial moment and it all ended for the best. Thought it might, I said. So there's the sister, very confused, all the piranhas, and the milk floating. Uh-oh, I said. Prepare to be keel-hauled, you scurvy dog, shouted the pirates. Let us now sacrifice them both to a great Splod, shouted the men with shiny black hair. They stole my eye. Twice, rumbled mighty Splod. Vivants those villains and varmints violently wound up, proclaimed a tall lady vampire with long fingernails. The piranha said nothing, but they thrashed about in their bowl, ominously. So there's the pirate, the guy from the island, and the vampire, and the piranhas. Doomed, moaned Professor Stagg. We cannot escape. They have frozen us in time and depowered us. Even my mighty time machine can do no more than open a small window in time and space, smaller than either of us could get through. But can you do it, I asked? Open a little window in time to our last location? Of course, but what good would that do? Quickly, I said, do it. Professor Stagg pushed the button on the box with the tip of his nose. There was a zum and a plip, and a window opened in space and time, large enough for an arm to reach through. I reached into it. I'll explain later, I said. Fate of the world at stake. I grabbed the milk for me, 15 minutes earlier, through the tiny space-time portal. "You must like milk a lot," said the globby aliens, "but that craving for lactic liquids will not make us take pity on you, or let you go and spare your badly designed planet." "It should," I said. "What am I holding in my left hand?" The milk," they said. "And what am I holding in my right hand?" They paused. Then one alien, so green and small and so globby and crusted that he might have been an enormous snot bubble blown up, and an elephant with a terrible head cold, said, "The same milk from 15 minutes earlier." So there he is. 2 milks. It's like he got an extra milk from the share table or something, right? "Exactly," I said. "Now think about this one very carefully. What would happen if I touched these 2 things together?" The globby aliens went a very pale green. The pirates, shiny black-haired men, and the piranhas looked at them puzzled, seeking some kind of explanation, as did the wumpires. "If 2 things that are the same thing touch," proclaimed the volcano god, "then the whole universe shall end. Thus saith the great and unutterable Splod." "How does a volcano know so much about transtemporal metascience?" asked one of the pale green aliens. "Being a geological formation gives you a lot of time to think," said Splod. "Also, I've subscribed to a number of learned journals." I coughed, in what I hoped was an ominous sort of way. "Well?" I asked. "What he said," admitted the green globby aliens. "The bit about the universe ending." "So," I told them, "unless you wish to spend the rest of your lives in a universe that no longer exists, you had better return things to the way they were, and then go away." The aliens looked at each other. They grinned at each other. One of them pressed the Grundledorfer. The wumpires, pirates, piranhas, volcano god, and the worshippers of the volcano god were gone. "What if," suggested one of the green globby aliens hopefully, "we only redecorated the southern hemisphere?" So that's the lower half of the planet. "We'd be okay, but Australia wouldn't be." "Not a chance," I said. "Now release us, or the milk touches itself, and then go away. Leave this planet forever." The aliens looked at me, then they looked at each other, and then they sighed with a noise like 100 elephantine snot balloons all deflating at once. "Right," they said. It was at that moment that a voice louder than anything I have ever heard, and I had heard a volcano erupt at a very close range, said, "Galactic Police, do not move!" My hands shook, but the milk did not touch the milk, and the universe did not end. There were red and blue flashing lights, and then stepping off their space bikes were about half a dozen uniformed dinosaurs, holding unmistakably large and extremely serious weapons. They pointed their weapons at the green globby aliens. "You are charged with breaking into people's planets and redecorating them," said a noble and imposing-looking Tyrannosaurus Rex. "And then with running away and doing it again somewhere else, over and over. You've committed crimes against the inhabitants of 8 planets, and crimes against good taste." "What we did to Rigel 4 was art," argued a globby alien. "Art? There are people on Rigel 4, said an Ankylosaurus, "who have to look up every night at a moon with 3 huge plaster ducks flying across it." Something very long with a head on the end of it came over to us. It was attached to a very large body. On the other side of the room. "Who are you?" it asked Professor Stig. "And why is your gorilla holding a temporally dislocated milk container?" "I am not a gorilla," I said. "I am a human father." So here's these dinosaur police officers with the aliens. "The human is holding the milk in order to make these evil redecorating snot bubbles go away and stop menacing this planet and us," said Professor Stig. The Diplodocus in a police cap opened its mouth and didn't say anything. The Tyrannosaurus, who had handcuffed all of the green globby people together with something that looked a lot more like pink string in a can than it looked like handcuffs, which was a good thing because they probably didn't have hands and they definitely didn't have wrists, stared at us and his eyes opened wide. "Great day in the morning," he exclaimed. "A biped, a stegosaurus, a floaty ball person carrier." And he stopped as if unable to go on. So there's the dinosaur talking to them in the floaty balloon person carrier. A pteranodon flapped over to us, then landed at Professor Stig's feet. It looked up at him and said hesitantly, Could you be the inventor of Professor Stig's pointy zooming out into outer space machine? Of Professor Stig's really good moves around in time machine? Would you be the author of my travels into the extremely far future and what I found there? Professor Stig, wisest of all dinosaur kind, Madam, is it truly you? It is, said the professor. Madam, I thought, embarrassed. And this is my assistant. The pteranodon extended a wingtip for me to shake, and without thinking, I moved the second milk from my right hand to my left where the first milk was. Everybody gasped. Unfortunately, the milk that had been in my right hand, which was the same as the milk that was already in my left hand, the same milk 15 minutes apart, touched each other. I held my breath. There was a fizzing noise and a mewing as if 100 kittens were being agitated in an enormous basket. Professor Stig closed her eyes. I can't look, she said. 3 purple dwarfs with flower pots on their heads appeared from nowhere and began to do a little dance. Did the universe end? Said the Tyrannosaurus, and his eyes tightly scrunched closer. Look, I said. We all watched the dwarves dance. They weren't human and they weren't dinosaurs. They had purple skin and the flower pots on their heads had lots of flowers growing out of them. They did a complicated sort of dance with lots of leg kicking and shouts of oi and ole and per tongue. And then as strangely as they had come, they vanished. Ah, said Professor Stig. There was always a possibility that this might happen, and fortunately, the universe has not ended. She pressed the button again with her tail. A small hole in space and time opened up. I was standing on the other side with a baffled expression on my face. Catch, I shouted, and threw the milk through the hole. As the portal closed, I saw me catch the milk using my stomach. The green globby aliens having been rounded up and taken away, all the space dinosaurs gathered around. I can't believe it, said the Diplodocus. Professor Stig, just like in the comics. The dinosaur who taught us that in the far future, small mammals will eat their breakfast cereal with milk on it. Inventor of the button. She's here in front of us with her gorilla. And there's the dwarves dancing with flower pots on their heads. Okay. Not a gorilla, but a human father, said Professor Stig, and all the other dinosaurs gasped and said things like, how wise she is, and what a brain, and how can you tell the difference between that creature and a gorilla? Is it the shoes? Professor Stig said, this human father has been my companion on my strange journey into the future. Now before I take my leave of him and come with you, O space dinosaurs, we should sing to him one of the great dinosaur songs. They sang me a song in 6-part harmony called, How Do You Feel This Morning When You Know What You Did Last Night? Then they sang me a song called, Don't Go Down to the Tar Pits, Dear, Because I'm Getting Stuck on You. The Space Police dinosaurs sang me a song about being space police and saving people all over the universe and driving very fast space bikes. And then they all sang a song called I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Hard, Wet, Hairy, Wet, White Crunchers, like I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts, which was an ancient dinosaur song that had apparently been written by Professor Stig's Aunt Button. There is nothing in the whole of creation as beautiful as dinosaurs singing in harmony. So there's some singing dinosaurs for you guys. Now, said Professor Stig, I shall go off in my floaty ball person carrier with my newfound dinosaur space police friends, and I shall explore the universe, and then I shall return to my own time and write a book about it. You actually write several books, said the Diplodocus. Professor Stig's Guide to Everything in the Whole of the Future was my favorite. It's very inspirational. I said goodbye to all the dinosaurs. I thanked Professor Stig for saving my life. Not at all, she said. We are both fortunate that you had the milk with you. It is not every container of milk that saves the world, after all. That was me that saved the world, I said, not the milk. The space dinosaurs all had their pictures taken holding the milk and smiling at the camera. What are you going to do with the milk, they asked me. Are you going to put it in a museum? No, I'm not, I told them. I'm going to give it to my children for their breakfast cereal. Possibly I'll pour some in my tea. Professor Stig nipped back up the rope ladder and climbed into the gondola of her balloon. The last I saw of her, of any of them, the whole inside of the saucer was fading into light so bright I had to close my eyes and look away. And then I was standing at the back door of our house, none the worse for wear. Fortunately, the dinosaurs had given me back the milk that after they had their photos taken with it. So I came in, and here I am. So there's the dinosaurs getting their pictures taken with the milk. And there he is holding his bottle of milk. And then there they all are flying away. And there's the dad with the milk. Getting close to the end, guys. That was what my dad said. I looked at my sister, and my sister looked at me. Then we both looked around the kitchen, at the calendar on the wall, with the hot air balloons on it, at the dinosaur models and my sister's ponies, at my sister's vampire books, at the picture of a volcano I had painted when I was little last year, and which is still up on the wall by the fridge. We looked at those things, and we looked at my dad. You know, we don't believe any of this, said my sister. We don't, I told him, not any of it. Especially not how you save the world from being remodeled, or the pirates. So there they are, looking at all the things in the room. Not any of it, I said. My father shrugged. Suit yourselves, he said, but it was all true, and I can prove it. How? Yes, how, said my little sister. Well, said my father, putting down the kitchen table. Here's the milk. And there's the father putting the milk on the kitchen table for his children. And he went back to reading his paper. And there's the dad reading his paper. And there's the kids reading the milk. And what's on the bottom of the milk? A pirate coin! So do you think that really happened? Do you think all those adventures happened on the way to getting the milk? What do you guys think? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you think it was a good book? I like it. I think it's really fun. It's lighthearted. It's got dinosaurs in it, which are great. And I enjoyed reading it to you. So you can add this as another day on your independent reading log. It was 27 minutes. And if you want to use this book for your final project, you can. Up to you. So I will see you in the future with more reading videos or in our online chats. Hopefully you are happy and healthy and good. All right. So be good, guys.